imagine that we're sat in South Africa at the start of the year. What would your goals have been at that stage before you hit a ball?
Definitely top 20, and yeah, that was the main goal ultimately. For the season was trying to get my card. Obviously knowing at least Q School was back on the schedule this year, so I knew like I was going to have two opportunities to try and earn my DP World card. So yeah, obviously first goal was top 20, and knowing that you're probably going to need a win to obviously have a good shot at that, and not having won before on Challenge Tour. So that was the kind of secondary goal, was to obviously get my first win out here as well.
And then we start the season in South Africa, 7 events there. How do you assess your time over at Salio? I think you only made one cut.
Yeah, pretty poor performance-wise, which was kind of a little bit frustrating because I'd done a lot of good work over the winter, and felt like everything was in pretty good shape, and sort of technically everything was. But yeah, just a bit of, I guess, early season kind of rust, and missed the first event in Fancourt. Didn't quite get into that one, so I was kind of a bit, waiting around to see if I was going to go or not. Yeah, it was kind of frustrating not to get some scores on the board, but obviously with a big field there and a low scoring, if you're just not quite on it, yeah, it's tough to make cuts. But I felt like my game was in good shape overall.
And it does sort of feel like those South African events, the South African guys seem to do better than the European guys on average. Do you always view those as like a free hit going into them? If you do well, they're great as a bonus.
Yeah, a little bit. It's always like, sort of that first week or two back out, it's always, there's like a bit of rust and a bit of, just getting back into competitive golf, obviously having a couple of months off over the winter. So you kind of just trying to feel your way back in, but at the same time, like, because the scoring's so low with the big fields, and obviously the SA boys are at the end of their season, so they've been playing right the way through and they're on form. So you've kind of got to get going pretty quick, really. And yeah, obviously I didn't really do that, but that's the game was in decent shape anyway. So.
And then we came back to Europe, and we'll get to your victory. But how did you feel in those weeks leading up to it? Because it felt like you were building towards something at that stage.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I came. We had that break after South Africa, and then Spain. The first event played okay, but again was just sort of, after that break again was sort of just getting my game back in shape, and and then Scotland the second week, was playing well, and was sort of up there with a chance all week. So it was definitely, that sort of definitely gave me a bit of confidence going back into the sort of European schedule of being able to compete, and knowing that my game was in shape to have some good results.
And then you arrived at the Vodro. Did you feel in a really good place at that stage? Because a lot of people say when they do win, they could almost feel like they were knocking on the door. Did you feel like that at that stage?
Yeah, definitely. I'd played, obviously the couple of weeks before, I'd played open qualifying at Prince's and missed out in a playoff, and then went straight out to Italy that week. Ended up with a top 10. Felt like I was hitting the ball great, just didn't hold putts that week. So I had a good sort of week there, and then going back to France, I was really looking forward to getting there. I was driving the ball great at the time, especially so. So I got there, and although it's like a really tight golf course, quite claustrophobic, I felt like that was to my advantage because I could hit a lot of drivers where the other guys weren't. So I could have a lot more wedges into greens, and that was kind of my game plan that week, was just taking advantage of the way I was playing, and it sort of felt like it was going to be a good week from the start.
I remember Steve Tiley almost tried to claim credit for your victory.
Yeah.
Because he gave you a putting lesson, didn't he? The week off.
Yeah. He gave me like 20 minutes, half hour or so on the Wednesday. I'd been hounding him all year, like going back to South Africa, like was struggling a bit on the greens, and it sort of started out as like a little bit of a joke, like, oh, give me a lesson, and it's sort of, I was like, oh no, I'd like really appreciate kind of a little bit of time. Just, historically he's had a good short game and been a good putter, so just wanted, a little bit of insight, just any kind of little sort of tips or tricks that sort of he's used, and he kept sort of saying, no, we're on the same order of merit, same order, like, you know, we can't be giving lessons out. So yeah, I was sort of, it became a running joke, and I was handing him, and then sort of finally broke him down when I saw he'd given some tips to someone else like a week or two before. So I was like, oh well, you've not got that excuse anymore. Yeah, so I yeah, sort of got a little bit of time with him, and yeah, he was yeah, like a little bit of help, and then yeah, he was yeah, trying to claim it as his own victory, I think. But no, I obviously appreciate his time and his help, and yeah, whether it was a bit of that or just a bit of a coincidence, but no, it was a good week.
Could you see what you worked on coming into your game during that week in the first 2 or 3 rounds?
Yeah, a little bit. It was kind of, I was just getting a little bit frustrated on the greens, and kind of feeling like I wasn't holding my fair share of kind of mid-range putts. I felt like I was rolling the ball well. Technically it was pretty good, but just kind of obviously just wasn't matching up green reads and things like that. So yeah, so that was the majority of kind of what we chatted about, was just kind of routine stuff and just visualizing kind of breaks, doing some work kind of with a line on the ball, without a line on the ball, and just building up a sort of instinct of you know, going through routines a little bit quicker, and just being a bit more playful in practice on the putting green, just yeah, trying to build up that instinct a little bit again, and not get so bogged down in trying to be perfect. So it definitely kind of gave me a bit of freedom just to sort of go out there and just, you know, at the time it was like, oh well, you know, not that it was so bad that it was like, oh, I might as well try anything, but it kind of was a little bit of that, in the sense that I could just sort of be a bit more free and with it, and be a bit more aggressive. So
as it transpired, it was quite a dramatic victory in the end, 4-hole playoff.
Yeah.
But before you got into the playoff, bogeyed 17, I think.
Yeah.
Did you almost feel like your chance was slipping away at that stage?
No, not really. Obviously, I knew I had a one-shot lead playing 17, or maybe it might have been a 2-shot lead, but sort of guessing that Robin's going to make birdie up the last. So, and I actually hit like 2 great shots into 17. I hit 4-iron, I was just all over it, and the wind dropped like mid-flight, and so it sent it right to the back of the green. I had a 60, 70 foot putt or something. So actually in the air, I'm thinking, okay, like, you know, if I just, this is going to be good, just make par here, and only need to make 5 down the last. But yeah, unfortunately it goes a little bit long, and a 3-putt. But then I'm still coming down the last thinking, well, I can knock this close in 2 and potentially get up and down and still make birdie. So yeah, I felt fine, and thought there was it was still sort of in my hands, and yeah, unfortunately couldn't quite make the 4 down 18. But yeah, then just went into the playoff.
I think Robin was playing the group in front of you, wasn't he? So you obviously saw him birdie 18, so you knew what you needed to do. Did that put more pressure on you, or how did you feel?
I mean, a little bit, I guess, because you need to make 4 instead of 5. You know, so you know, making 5 down there, it's a shortish par 5. So as long as you get it and play off the tee, you're probably gonna, you know, be okay. But yeah, obviously you need to hit some quality shots still to make 4. So yeah, a little bit of pressure in that sense, but not sort of like a, you know, a pressure of having to do it or anything. I knew that obviously worst case I make 5 and I've got a chance in a playoff. So yeah, just doing my best obviously to make 4, but yeah, as it was, made 5 and went into the playoff. And
then you matched each other shot for shot for 3 holes in the playoff. Looking back now, how did it feel when that birdie putt dropped on the 4th hole?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know, to be honest, because obviously like Robin was inside me, so you know, I hold my putt, and I think, like, looking back, and I can't really remember it, but obviously looking back at the video, obviously he gave it a bit of a fist pump, but I think, like, in my head at that point, I was just thinking, like, oh, that's to extend the playoff, because, you know, he had 12 foot, he had 10 foot or something. So I'm just like, you know, kind of typical match play kind of thing. Whenever you've grown up, I was always taught, like, you know, you're expecting the guy to hole it or to get up and down, or, you know, it's the hole's not done until it's done kind of thing. So I'm thinking, like, oh, that's, you know, I've got to hold this because he's going to hold his. So, you know, I kind of walk to the, you know, hold that and then walk to the back of the green, and I'm sort of in my head, I'm knowing that I think we were then going to go to 18 after that. I'm sort of, thinking like, okay, like visualizing the tee shot down 18, just thinking, oh, he's going to hole it. So, yeah, like I didn't think like, oh, this is for the win or anything. It was more like, oh, this is to stay in the game.
Becoming a Challenge Tour winner, does it feel different to how you thought it might?
A little bit. I was quite surprised, sort of how much mentally it changed me, like straight after, because obviously playing a lot of years out here and seeing a lot of lot of other people win, a lot of like friends win. It was kind of getting to a stage of like, oh, can I do it? And you're sort of looking at all those guys on the leaderboards on, like earlier in the year when I was in Scotland and in contention or a couple of other weeks. You're sort of looking at other names who have won before on the leaderboard on a Saturday or Sunday, and you're sort of thinking, okay, they've been here before, they've done it, so they're not chasing that first win. So you sort of feel like they can free. You're looking at them thinking, oh, they're going to be relaxed and be able to freewheel a little bit. And then literally like the week after, or the weeks after kind of I won, I sort of then felt that in reverse, and then like, oh no, like maybe other people are looking at me now, like on the leaderboard, and not being scared or anything, but like sort of thinking, oh, okay, well, he's already got his win last week or 3 weeks ago. So it kind of gives you a bit of confidence to go up there and think, oh, okay, I've been in this situation before and I've got it done. So you sort of can kind of crack on and just keep pushing.
That victory pretty much set your card, really. Like, you didn't have to do too much else.
Yeah.
Did you reassess your goals at that stage?
Not really, to be honest. Obviously, I'd had a reasonable start like before that and had some good results. So I'd already put a decent amount of points up, and then obviously that sort of vaulted me right, kind of up there in the rankings. But I can't remember exactly what I was on at the time, but like I knew I still needed to put up a lot more to be top 20 at least by the end of the year. So there was a few people that were kind of coming to me and go, oh, does that win guarantee you your card, or you're basically there now. And I kept saying to myself, I was like pretty adamant of like, no, I've got to keep going, not just for top 20, but for obviously finishing as high up. So I kind of I was sort of saying to everyone, like even after a couple more good weeks, like sort of following that, it was like, no, it's not done yet, it's not done yet. So I just sort of kept kind of pushing really, and then obviously a few weeks after that, when I had some more good results, it was then starting to look at like the top of the top 20 rather than the bottom of it. So a little bit of change, but not initially really straight after the win.
Yeah, you did go on a great run. I think from August into September, your results were T6, T4, T12, third. Did you feel like you were sort of in a flow state then? You were just hitting the ball so well, and it was like so natural.
Yeah, it honestly did. Like those weeks you mentioned, it was almost like, I was kind of getting. It was almost frustrating if I missed like one fairway a day, or if I missed a green. Like and it sort of, I was hitting the ball so well off the tee, and then obviously being in play so much, like allowed me to hit so many greens that it almost felt if I wasn't shooting 3 or 4 under each day, like it was a bit of a disappointment walking off. Just obviously managed to take advantage of that sort of good golf and put some good results up at that time. It was kind of, I think obviously with the win and the way I was playing, it definitely helped me sort of feel a little bit more comfortable out there, and obviously being a bit more used to being at the top of the leaderboard and being able to stay up there, and knowing that it actually wasn't going to take perfect golf to stay up there. I knew you can still have mistakes and still be able to contend. So it was just it was a good run through that summer.
You said it was quite frustrating when you felt so good, but it must be a nice feeling as a golfer to be disappointed with, like you say, maybe missing one fairway.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, obviously, like I said, I was hitting it so well that it was just kind of expectations were kind of then sky high. And every time I sort of went out on a Thursday, or kind of, and each round after that, every week, it just sort of felt like I'm literally here to win this tournament. Like I said, playing so well that it was kind of, you're sort of just expecting to hit every single fairway, and you'd miss one like a couple of yards in the rough. It wasn't 14 out of 14 today; it was 13. So it was nice just to be playing some consistently good golf there and taking advantage of it.
And finally, now here at the grand final, what does success look like to you this week?
Success this week is obviously definitely a win. Obviously I want to, want to sort of work my way back up the rankings as high as I can after a sort of a couple of weeks where I've slipped a little bit. So yeah, obviously here to go and try and finish off a great year with a great week and get a win. But yeah, anything where I'm up there contending at least sort of come Sunday would be great.
And in a nutshell, how would you assess the 2022 season?
I mean, overall, it's obviously like a big success. I've kind of the last few years I kind of struggled a little bit at times. Obviously through kind of COVID, I had a year out injured before that. So it sort of kind of felt like the last sort of 3 or 4 years has sort of flown by. Really, I've not had much of a chance to kind of have a full proper season. So yeah, it was nice to sort of get off to a nice start at the start of the year. Just with some, or at least when the Europe schedule started, and then yeah, just sort of keep kicking on after that. So yeah, like I said at the start, the goal was top 20 and to get a win. So those two things are ticked off. It's now just trying to finish as high up as I can, ready for next year.